Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Getting Hammered. I am Mary Catherine Ham here for the last time from Milwaukee, the site of the Republican National Convention, which just closed out last night. I'm here with my co-host, who is actually back in Washington at the Free Beacon. That is Victorino Mattis. There's a lot happened last night, a lot, and I'm up very early to record this. And we were almost stymied for the dumbest reason, which is that this Hyatt has no internet right now. But we're making it work, people. We're making it work. So before we get to the news, how you doing, Vic?
Hello, Mary Catherine, and good early morning to you. I'm fine. I'm done after this week. I had to wait for Matt Continetti's wonderful editorial column, which obviously didn't come until after the president spoke.
Right.
I want our listeners to hear the yawn, by the way.
Yeah.
That was I want listeners to hear Mary Catherine's yawn because it is not even 6 a.m. Central Standard Time, and I want our listeners to know that she still looks great.
Thank you.
I look like an Asian cat, which is more a cat than normal. I just have to say because I'm by default a cat, and now my eyes are barely open. It's you're so wired. I wasn't even there, and yet because we're just doing all this work here this whole week. It's exhausting. So I can't imagine. Oh, it must feel like, I don't know, Mary Catherine, either pulling out an all-nighter for an exam or like after like when you have like a crazy prom party and you just don't go to sleep.
That is a little bit what it feels like. In fact, the reason I'm so tired is that after the speech last night, I did Gutfeld. And that meant that we were on air until 1:30 here.
Oh.
And then I went out for a little while.
Of course.
And yeah. And now here I am like 2.5 hours later. And the Gutfeld people they had to catch an early flight. And they were like, maybe we just won't sleep.
Yes.
But I did sleep.
That is an option. You start playing with fire around like 3, 4 a.m. You're like, I can't believe I'm trying to do this. But once every 4 years, and in some ways, once in a lifetime experience.
Well, that's for sure.
Yeah.
So last night, Donald Trump got the nomination, accepted the nomination of the GOP at the RNC. And boy, what a night it was.
Is it everything you imagined it would be in terms of your expectations, especially about the president? Or I don't know if you want to talk about some of the speakers, running up to the big event, because it was quite something.
Yes, it was. So inside the building, let me tell you, I was having a blast.
Yeah.
I was having a blast. Hulk Hogan.
Oh my gosh.
Kid Rock. And like, it just was fun. And like, GOP stuff isn't always fun. It's not always the word you're going to use for it. And I have many complaints about the direction of the party, but Kid Rock and Hulk Hogan were not among them last night.
No, I mean, if you think about, as we were talking about just the other day, the singing senators, from the singing senators to Kid Rock.
Yeah.
Who would have thought that at a Republican National Convention? And I know, there are a lot of musicians who are friendly and Republican adjacent. I could have sworn Van Halen was at the 96 convention, but I'll need somebody to remind me if that was actually true. Or certainly Sammy Hagar, because he's a conservative. And B.B. King was friends with Republicans as well. But this is quite something. And I have to I was kind of holding out hope, like during the Super Bowl when surprise cameo appearances happened during the halftime show. And I was kind of hoping that 50 Cent would show up and it would be just like amazing. But nevertheless, how is Kid Rock received? Because, we get certain camera shots here on television of people in the audience and the delegates, but how is he generally received? Because, it's different ages in that crowd. So what was it like?
Yeah. So everybody was already like sort of primed for this by that point. And so I would say received quite well, although I'm sure the cutaway shots featured a lot of confused older people.
That's what I was gonna say. I was thinking about my in-laws, watching. I don't know what they would do if they were there.
So he was received very well by me.
Yes.
Who in fact owned a Kid Rock CD circa
Yeah.
like early 2000s or whenever Bawa Ba came out. That's it sounds so lame when you have to say it without being in the song. Bawa Ba.
Yeah.
Anyway, he did a modified version of Cowboy
Yes.
that sort of changed some of the words to say fight, fight.
It works.
It did, but actually, so before that though, I should go back a little bit because before that there was Hulk Hogan.
Mhm.
Now I'm totally
Oh,
blanking on who spoke except for Hulk Hogan. Like
well,
it's
okay.
all I can remember.
I'll throw in there was Pompeo and there was Linda McMahon, and there were lots of everyday good, decent Americans, and also Tucker.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Which, by the way, I'd like to say this really quickly. When Tucker walks out, and you know him, I know Tucker. When he walks out on stage, he's like Kramer in the Mike Douglas episode of Seinfeld, where he just starts laughing and pointing at people. I'm not sure who he's laughing or pointing to. He just
Right.
there's a sudden bursts of like these guffaws, and it's quite amusing.
I liked what he said part of his speech because he brought it back to the assassination attempt, which I feel like so
Yeah,
much news has happened this week that it's very easy to move past that a little too much. Just
yes,
a really historic moment, and
yeah,
his thought was that, when Donald Trump stood up, that is when he became the leader of a nation. That
yeah.
was
That was a good
that was a
line.
distinguishing moment, and I think there's truth to that, and I think it's what animated this convention. Tucker also spoke without a prompter and in his sort of like jocular, casual way, which is quite a thing in that room. I
Yeah,
mean,
you forget, well, not really forget, but, but now that he's not on TV, how, the connection he's able to make and that sort of charm and why it worked.
yes, for sure. So he spoke, and then eventually Hulk Hogan takes the stage, and he takes the stage in a blazer, and everyone's like,
Uh-huh.
"Oh wow,
That's we
look
were fooled.
look at Hulk Hogan in a blazer." And as he's speaking, when we should play a clip of this, like I do, he gets frustrated that his guns are confined by this blazer.
I was gonna say, you and Hulk Hogan showing off your guns.
No, I can't wear a blazer. It's not for me, okay? Our pythons cannot
Yes.
cannot be
I
contained.
well, having watched the Mickey Rourke movie, The Wrestler,
Mhm.
and knowing what happens to these guys because of all the, stuff that they take. Let's just say the stuff that they take in order to get really big. I was very concerned when I saw that he was on the list. Is he gonna talk? I haven't seen Hulk in a long time. How is he gonna look like? And I thought he looked great.
I thought he
He's
looked great
the
too.
man is 70 years old.
He looks fantastic. Newly Christian as of
Oh,
the last
okay.
year or so. A Trump supporter
Yeah.
who he says decided he could not stay silent after Saturday. And I think that's an interesting point because there is a social stigma
Yeah.
to supporting Donald Trump that
Oh,
I think
sure.
that I think was partially erased by Saturday.
Yeah.
And the more that's erased, the more people talk about him. You have sort of a cascading effect where
Mhm.
people are
They
willing to
could
get on board.
they could come
Um,
out.
yes, no, really, that's
Yeah.
a real thing. So Hulk speaks, and of course, as he's speaking,
Mhm.
he has he takes off the blazer, and
Yeah.
everybody's screaming, and he keeps talking, and then he has two tank tops on. You can see he
He
has a
did.
black one and he has
He
a red
did.
one, and he rips the front of his shirt, and under the first tank top is a
Uh-huh.
red Trump Vance t-shirt.
You kinda wanted to wear that because it's like, "Oh, man, that looks very cool," but
I mean, yeah, it kind of made me want
the merch.
not for the political reasons, but
No.
just for the moment,
Uh-huh, right.
a red cut off sleeve Trump Vance shirt, which I anticipate will be worn everywhere after this moment. So,
And
so
you know what I told Kate to prepare herself that when I turn 70, my arms are gonna look like that too.
yes,
It's
that is
gonna
how that works. So let's play a clip of the old Hulkster.
You know something, Trumpites? I didn't come here as Hulk Hogan, but I just had to give you a little taste. My name is Terry Bollea. And as an entertainer, I love you too. And as an entertainer, I tried to stay out of politics. But after everything that's happened to our country over the past 4 years and everything that happened last weekend, I can no longer stay silent.
Anyway, that was a lot of fun.
And
And
you know what's funny? He looks like a Terry Bollea, right? That's his real name, and he looks like a Terry.
he does look like a
And
Terry.
you know,
Why
it's weird.
wait,
I don't
hold
know.
on.
Yeah.
It's interesting because people were making the comparison to Idiocracy last night
Oh, okay.
because a wrestler is
Oh, right. It becomes
the president in that
president.
movie.
Yeah.
And that wrestler president is played by Terry Crews. So I guess it's just
Oh,
a Terry
that
thing.
is very funny. It is.
You know?
Every Terry I've known has looked like a Terry Eastland. There's a certain thing about Terry, but your husband will appreciate this. I told my son while listening to that really, speech that really gets you fired up. I said, man, I just want to do the power press right now. It was that I was so pumped up. He's great, and he has this. I think it's a kind of a special connection with like 14-year-old boys. I don't know what it is, but it's like, yeah, that's me, and get out there.
Yeah.
And everything he's saying, brother, everything is a brother. And he gave his little hat tip to the Macho Man Randy Savage. Oh yeah, and the Trumpites. It just brought me back. Well, like you as well, and Kate was saying this. It brought me back to the 80s.
No,
in a good
I
way.
was like 1986. Mary Catherine has been waiting so long for this moment.
Good, right.
I mean, it was just silly fun. And you know who was having silly fun? It's Scott Jennings of CNN,
Oh yeah.
who got into this back and forth with David Axelrod, but he gives him a different name. I think you guys
Yeah.
will enjoy this.
In terms of your unity party, I keep having to remind you, it's moving, it's striking to see, but they did boo your guy right out of the arena.
Axelrod, you are not going to bring me. I am literally going to come over there and body slam you. I will suplex you on this set tonight. I am feeling the vibes of Hulkamania. I'm not holding back, brother.
We should explain to everyone.
Listen to me, David Taxelrod. Listen to me.
We got a chance to meet Hulk Hogan, and he cannot calm
Listen,
down.
Taxelrod. You're not bringing me down.
Scott, clearly a child of the 80s as well.
Taxelrod. Yeah, I think they all got a kick out of it. You could see Van Jones was he was genuinely amused. He was genuinely amused. Yeah.
You can't be mad at that. Jennings been having the time of his life over there.
Yeah.
At the CNN set where they are live from the convention, unlike, by the way, MSNBC.
Yeah, I was convinced because of the power of television and special effects that they were there, and because it's that they all have those boxes on that
Yes.
second level,
Yes,
and I
so-
just assumed they were one of them.
Yeah. So quick story about journalistic ethics before we move on. I mean, it doesn't matter because MSNBC makes up a lot of things. But they were broadcasting from a set that looked like it was where
Yeah.
the rest of our sets were.
Yes,
And it turns out they're in New York, but they have a giant LED screen behind them, as all studios do now, and you can put whatever you want on it. It's, often the magic wall, or it's the charts and whatnot. And but they just broadcast the room from the RNC on the LED behind them to make it look like they're at the RNC, which is shady. That is
It's-
shady. I assumed they were here looking at the clips. They are not. Apparently, they are announcing at the top of every hour that they're not here. They're like, we're from New York, which is like slightly mitigating, but the point is to fool you. Like that,
Right.
That's what they're doing.
If you're from New York, why do you make it look like you're there?
Yeah.
But it is funny because when I've been watching some of those clips, I'm thinking to myself, wow, what must that be like for Joy Reid to be there at the Republican convention?
I know,
Wait,
right?
she's not there.
She's
And
not there.
What must it be like for her there and speculating and comparing, Biden getting COVID to Trump almost getting shot and how it's the same? What
Can we
must
play-
that be like?
You know what? Let's play that clip real quick, just for fun, from Joy Reid. Here she is, talking to Jen Psaki.
Here's the question that I have on that. These two men are both elderly. Donald Trump is an elderly man who, for whatever reason, was given 9 seconds to take a iconic photo op during an active shooter situation. Weird situation. We'll figure that out one day. But his survival of that and bouncing right back and going right to his convention is being conveyed in the media world as a sign of strength. This current president of the United States is 81 years old and has COVID. Should he be fine in a couple of days? Doesn't that convey exactly the same thing? That he's strong enough, older than Trump, to have gotten something that used to really be fatal to people his age. So if he does fine out of it and comes back and is able to do rallies, isn't that exactly the same?
It should.
I mean, it's not exactly the same. It's not the same incident, but it's an elderly man coming through out of an illness.
It should.
Oh yes, those are very similar. Those are
It-
quite similar.
It is, yeah. It's like me saying that, because I was in the Civil Air Patrol for a very short time. That that's basically like being in the military. It's like I served like J.D. Vance was in the Marines and I was in Civil Air Patrol. It's really the same thing.
Same thing.
Yeah, I do expect the flag over my coffin, so I'm really
Right.
hoping for that. That's really the only reason why I did it. The look on Jen Psaki's face too. There's
Oh, you can tell she's like, don't do it, man.
yeah,
Don't do
please
it.
don't do this. And then she has to agree with her. She's like, yes, yes.
Oh, yeah.
That's where they are.
Yeah, it's not good. So then after Hulk, who everybody enjoys very much, and then we get Kid Rock. But I also want to note that there was an intro video of Donald
Oh
Trump.
my goodness. Yes.
And the video was great. The video was fantastic.
I made a joke. It's really well done, and it's the mini biopic
Yeah.
of Donald Trump. And I made a joke with my family saying, I wonder if they're going to show the clip of Donald Trump from Home Alone 2, and they did.
Yep. I mean, the whole night is very wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So, but in that video, I heard something I had never heard before. I didn't know the skating rink story
Oh yeah.
about
his.
Trump saving the skating rink,
Yeah.
the ice skating rink in Manhattan. And there's an incredible line where they say, what the government of New York couldn't do in 6 years, he did in 3 months. And
Yeah.
I was like, could that be the pitch for the whole campaign? Because that's what I want to hear.
Yeah, that's right. And last time I was in New York, not the last time, but I remember seeing the rink recently. So I assume it's still there.
Yeah.
And it was great because you saw a very large man next to him in some of those clips, and you realized that was Al Sharpton.
Yes.
And it was and Don King. Don King is unmistakable, but
Don King
you
is there.
You forget how
Oprah's in the clips.
Oh man, he
Because-
brought out all the hits.
Because this man has been a feature of pop culture for
Right.
40, 50 years, right? 50 years. And so there was a
Yeah.
lot going on in that little biopic. But what struck me is that the tone of it was not dark. The tone of
No,
it, and because Donald Trump's campaigns in the past have had a tendency to be very dark in tone.
Yeah.
And some people, look, he's not always dark on the stump. He's funny. He can be lighter, but the campaign itself,
Right.
and certainly, as characterized by his first inaugural address, which was American Carnage, right?
Yeah.
This one, the instrumentation was light. The voiceover was like optimistic.
Mhm.
And, of course it referenced problems in this country, but it didn't have quite the heavy hand that
Yeah.
this stuff does, which has been how the whole convention looked. And as far as Kid Rock goes, I bought myself a PBR and I was just living my best millennial life in there.
You
And
also had a can of beer on the Ruthless podcast.
I did. Oh, I did. Yes.
You were living your best life.
You gotta get in the spirit of things around
Right.
here. So I loved Kid Rock, and I don't always love Kid Rock these days, but I did like that album when it came out, and I
Yeah.
do like Cowboy, and I was not mad about it at all. So I like that.
He did that song, and I can't remember it. It was more recent. The video of him riding a rocket to Mars, and then he just lights up a joint on Mars. I don't know how
Yeah.
it could do that. The effects were amazing. I thought he was
That
there. I thought
It
he
is
was there.
amazing, just like MSNBC.
Just
And then finally we have.
Yeah.
Oh wait, no, not finally. 'cause-
Eric Trump, and
'cause-
then there was
yeah, Eric Trump was fine.
sorry.
And then Dana White introduces
That's right.
Donald Trump. And I have to say that Dana White's speech
Yeah.
was extremely effective. And it was extremely effective because he hit some very simple messages that are the
Right.
heart of this campaign. Just saying to people, like, look what your life looked like for 4 years under Trump, and look what it looks like now,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And he also said, I'm not telling you what to think. I'm telling you what I know. And he's letting people choose.
Yeah.
He says, but I have to
That's it.
vouch for this guy. He's a very talented speaker. He, as the head of the UFC, is the only man who speaks to a crowd that's perhaps more pro-Trump than this one at
Yeah.
UFC
Yeah, that's right.
matches. He's a businessman, and I think he gets the kind of voter that Donald Trump appeals to, right? Like, this is
Yeah,
a
of
very
course.
red-blooded male,
That's right.
you know, not always college educated. Well, I'm a big UFC fan, so I'm here for it. But I thought he did a great job. There's all this stuff about, I guess he flew from a family trip to do this speech, and then he's going back. Anyway.
Right.
And he also, as everyone has, talked about a different Donald Trump that you don't always get to see,
Yeah.
right? Donald Trump was concerned about him and his family and all of that. Okay.
And by the way, you do hear this from a lot of people, and people might be wondering, is any of this true? Are they exaggerating? Are they just trying to make him look good and he's really not like this? I've heard from other people directly who have had interactions with Trump, off camera, and they're funny stories.
Yes.
And I mean, there's just a different side to the haranguing Trump that we're used to. And, I know for somebody who, when he had left a message, how she missed the call, I have no idea. And what does he say? He's like, "Hello, it's your favorite president of all time." I mean, he just, it's funny. Just
No, he's quite the character. So then he comes out, and it's like
the name, by the way, the name Trump that
the
appeared.
name in lights.
It was the same marquee for Chicago, by the way, the musical. And then here it is. It just says Trump. Yeah.
And then he's standing in front of it and he's silhouetted by it. And it's like, it's so over the top.
Yeah.
It's so ridiculous. Lee Greenwood sings God Bless the USA. I saw a lot of people ragging on that song. And
Again? I mean, but yeah.
That's a lovely song. Okay.
It is.
Everybody calm down.
You know what I was thinking about? It stuck in my head this morning for some reason, and it's the line, "At least I know it. At least I know I'm free." Where you know what? Say what at the at least part is the key, because it ain't perfect.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
at least I know I'm free. Where I know I'm free. Yeah.
So he takes the stage to God Bless the USA. Again, a softer note, right?
Mm-hmm.
This isn't Back in Black. This is
That's right.
this is God Bless the USA. Takes the stage, and for that first 20 minutes, Vic,
Yeah.
so good.
It is.
So, like,
for those first 20 minutes, and one of the great prefaces of all time, Mary Catherine. Go ahead.
Yep.
Yeah.
So yes, everybody's like, is there going to be a different Trump?
Yeah.
On
Yes.
this
Now
night?
turn it off. Now turn off the TV. Now after 20 minutes, you saw enough. Okay,
Yeah.
you've been won over. You're voting for him. You can turn off the TV now.
And people got a preview of the speech. I hadn't received the excerpt, so I was texting with someone who had, and I said, what's the story? What's this look like? Because everybody's wondering, like, which Trump is coming out? Are we getting this, what looks like a bit of a changed Trump
Sure, just from
that we've seen all
expressions.
week? And I said, oh yeah, this is like on target. He's going to talk about the assassination attempt. He's going to talk about bringing people together.
Yeah.
And indeed he did for 20 minutes.
Again, just turn it off. It's like if you really love the original Superman movie with Christopher Reeve, okay, turn it off before he goes backwards and changes time and it just ruins it for you. It's like, okay, well.
So here's my take on this. The first 20 minutes was so powerful.
Yeah.
That I don't think it matters that he went on forever, because we live in a soundbite world. The soundbites were done. Everything that people see casually probably happened in that first 20 minutes.
Right.
And then I don't know if he was just trying to show us that he can stay up later than Biden, but he spoke for an hour and a half.
It really was, if you, I saw on the schedule for yesterday that he's, obviously the last speaker, and it was 9 to 10:30, and obviously they were running late. But I thought to myself, 9 to 10:30? So yes, you're right. If he wants to show the world that he has more stamina, mission accomplished.
Yeah, more than I had. I was
Yeah.
like, ho, 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 ho. Okay. But the beginning of the speech was extremely good. It was kind of a brilliant stroke to just have him do basically his first exclusive interview
Yes.
with himself.
Right.
So he tells the story about the assassination attempt, an attempt on his life. He spends in those first 20 minutes, I think, more time talking about other people
Yeah.
and honoring other people
Yeah.
than I maybe have ever heard him spend. He honored the audience. He honored the first responders. He honored his own Secret Service agents.
Yes, the ones who
He
protected him. Yeah.
he honored Corey Compratore. It was really something. He also started off on a note of vulnerability by saying, "This is probably the only time you'll hear me tell it
Right.
because it's painful to tell it." And then he said, "I'm not supposed to be here, but I'm here, by the grace of God Almighty."
Yeah.
And that sounded real, Vic. It sounded
Yeah.
real.
It did.
I don't want to
and
be taken, but I'm just saying it sounded real.
It's funny that you say that because I said either I'm being conned and it's working, or this is actually real because I've said this before. You experience something like this, like Reagan or John Paul II or whoever. You cannot. Yeah, how can you not be profoundly affected by that
Right.
experience? And it's sort of something on a very elemental level and an existential level of I shouldn't be here. And God willing, your thought is, well, then what do I do with the time that I've been given this extra time? What
And
do I do with it? I
and
mean, that's how you're supposed to think about these things.
and boy, did he take the extra
Oh, he
time.
did. Sorry, I didn't mean to make it that obvious of a softball for you. There you go. But he was sweating, and the makeup was on the light side. It was, so he wasn't as
Yeah.
orange as he normally was, and he did sound muted, when he was speaking.
Yeah, I think, yes, certainly, like I said, during that first part, a very different vibe than I have seen from
Yeah.
him before. The story was compelling, to say the least. At one point, he walks away from the microphone,
Mhm.
and I couldn't figure out what was happening there.
Oh, yeah.
And he walks over to Corey Compratore's firefighting uniform,
Yeah.
and it's hanging up in a tribute as it had been outside his firehouse. So they had put it up, and then they gave it to the RNC to put here.
Yeah.
And he walks over and he, like, no, not a dry eye in the building for this
Oh,
part.
yeah. I mean, you could see the audience, all the shots. Yeah.
He walks over to it. He gives the helmet a kiss. I mean, it's just like, it was tender. It was,
You say that, but I'm sure you know that on other networks they were disgusted because it was a prop. They said, and I believe that was on MSNBC.
is that serious? I mean, this is obviously with the blessing of his loved ones that it's here. And by the way, the former president was effusive in his praise for Corey Compratore,
Yeah.
and not just effusive and not just a throwaway line. He spent time on this person.
Oh,
and
yeah.
It felt like he had gotten to know more about him. He had talked to the relatives. It is unfair to him to turn that into something that was not meaningful, because it really was. And it really was to everyone in the room.
It was Simone Sanders who had said that.
Sigh.
That she said, I was sickened by using him as a prop. So there you go.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
That's really ridiculous. The other thing going around was that his name is misspelled on the back of the jacket.
Yeah, Compratore. Yeah.
But there's a picture of, they're like, they messed it up. They didn't even spell it right. They faked this thing.
That's
Nope.
his thing.
That it was spelled that way at the firehouse where it was displayed. It clearly came this way.
Yeah.
So don't go blue anon, anybody.
Oh, have you seen the polling done on Democrats regarding Blue Anon and how many people believe this was a setup?
Yeah, it's like 35%.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. That's what it is.
That's not good. It's not good. Well, remember what was the perennial number for Democrats believing 9/11 was an inside job was like 25 to 26. I mean, it was like not a small number.
No.
In the conspiracy department. Anyway, so let's play a clip of Trump during the first part of the speech.
I am running to be president for all of America, not half of America, because there is no victory in winning for half of America. So tonight, with faith and devotion, I proudly accept your nomination for President of the United States. Thank you.
So yes, if he had stuck with the prompter after that, just a magnificent moment. But he went from that to kind of a regular stump speech, and his regular stump speech is very long.
Yeah.
Like most politicians give a stump speech and it's like 11 to 15 minutes.
You have to know your crowd, your
Yeah.
audience, and you don't want to lose him. And he's pretty good about keeping people sort of like entertained, but even he has limits, I think.
Yeah, and his stump speech is just very long. He likes an audience. He talks to his audience for a very long time at these rallies. And
Yeah.
someone made the comparison, I think it was Jeff Blair, who writes for National Review, said he made the mistake of doing an intimate venue set for a festival audience.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Our friend Kristen Soltis Anderson, she said, quote, he's now playing the hits, so to speak, but the acoustic version. And I think that's right. And Noam Blum, Neon Taster, he had two observations. What was that? Because I didn't realize we're getting the Snyder cut of speeches, which is a Zack Snyder reference. If you don't know what that is, ask Sonny Bunch. And he also said something very funny on X, which was, for my non-Jewish friends, this is what Passover feels like. So it's kind of funny.
So yeah, I think, look, it blunted some of the momentum of the night to just go on for that long. I'm sure he lost people. However, he lost people after the 20 minutes.
Yeah.
And I think it's actually important that it was the hits but muted, right?
Right.
Like
right.
that actually was a continuation of some of the tone shift that you saw at the beginning of this speech.
Right.
Now, that didn't mean that after the 20 minutes that it was good.
Yeah. No, I mean, it reminded me, I keep on thinking of Tony Soprano, if you're a fan of the Sopranos TV show. And, he gets shot and then he goes through this thing. In fact, he goes through there's a whole, like several episodes where he's, the other world where he's in coma world, and which is very interesting. But then he comes out and he's sort of a changed man. And then he's kind of not a changed man at the end, but you still kind of like him anyway. And so, I mean, you go through that. So there's still elements of him. It just happens to be, not as loud and raucous and angry and haranguing as he used to. But those elements are still there. So,
well, and I think it's a little, I think it's more than a little churlish.
Yeah.
To be like, this man was shot 5 days ago.
Yeah.
He gives an extremely moving 20 minutes that is more than any of the people watching this speech who are critical of him would have expected of him in the moment, if they're honest with themselves.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And then their complaint is that this man who got shot 5 days ago, who almost lost his life, they're like, well, on the long side.
Well,
he said crazy Pelosi once, and let me
he
just
wasn't supposed to say Biden. He said Biden once.
Right. He actually said it twice. And he was
Twice?
like, oh, dang it, I said it again.
No.
But, and I'm sure like his handlers were just like, just read the prompter, man, because he's going off script for minutes and minutes and minutes.
I mean,
but can I just say that if this were the other way around, if Biden were shot on a Saturday and he gave a long but pretty solid speech at the beginning to accept the nomination, if I, as a right-leaning pundit, said anything on TV that was critical of that speech, I think I would lose my job. Like that, you wouldn't be allowed to, and that shouldn't be the case, right? You should be allowed to fairly assess the speech. But it's just it's so different when Republicans are the target of violence.
It's not only that, but they're going to say that it doesn't count because he actually wasn't shot. I mean, they're still fixated on the ear. And can I just give you my, what do you call it, 3D chess, 4D chess analysis here?
Yeah.
I'm thinking, he could have walked it up, right? You started to even hear Van Jones on CNN talk about the mood, the positive vibes, among the crowd and people really who are very skeptical or coming from the other side, never seeing anything like this. And it's getting them worried because, it's all coming together. And then you have this story about Biden, and there's a good possibility they say that, by this weekend, he's going to announce that he's going to step down. I think Trump might have then purposely swerved and did old Trump to keep Biden competitive. That's what I'm thinking. It's like, well, give him a whole, like, hey, look, it's still the same old Trump. I can beat this guy. That's my
Well,
thought.
you can tell that left-leaning folks needed this moment, right?
Oh,
They
yes.
hadn't had anything to
Right.
sink their teeth into for a while, and so they sort of exaggerated the impact of this, like it was gonna, like, this is gonna shift the race. Dude, a person being shot hasn't materially shifted the race. If your theory is that a person who has been shot, the former president of the United States being shot, hasn't shifted the race, but a long speech does shift the race, I question your analysis.
No, and you can tell by the amount of retweets a lot of those people received for saying, I didn't think about it until now, but Trump can still blow this. Okay, it's over now. We're gonna and boom, it's everywhere because people want to believe that. And obviously,
Well, and I usually believe that. I just don't think that this is that. I
Right.
think it was a long
Right.
speech. I think he blunted what could have been a lot more momentum. Could have
Right.
gone out, really beautifully.
It baffles me because they're there for the taking, and he could have, if he just cut back at least on the length of it.
But maybe you're right. If he had delivered a banger, how quickly are they moving
that's it.
to put even more pressure on Biden?
Palace
So,
coup.
he gave the speech. It took a long time.
Yeah.
We dropped the balloons. I did enjoy that there were gold balloons, not
Oh,
just
yeah.
red, white, and blue.
No, red, white. Was it red, white, blue, and gold?
Red, white, blue, and gold. But it was, aside from the fact that that went on too long, just a very fun night. Like, people are having fun. The vibe is extremely good. That's what you're getting from this convention. And that is ultimately what you want from a convention. You want a pretty disciplined message.
Yeah.
You want an introduction to the American people of your VP, and you want a really good vibe coming out of this place. And I think, and almost entirely, that's what the campaign got.
Yeah. Again, towards the end, there were things that he was saying that I sort of like, I don't agree with this. I don't agree with
Right.
that. Certainly, he's big on these tariffs, and I'm like, there's
No, thank you.
that usually comes with some retaliatory effects, from the countries you're targeting. I get it, and there'll be a time and a place, for those arguments. But I did like his ending the EV mandate on day one. I mean, you can't say that
Well,
enough,
that's the
man.
thing.
You want to
Very-
win people over. Just keep on repeating that.
Well, and he also said, we can play a clip of this too. There's a moment where he talks about the American hostages in Gaza
Yes.
that Biden never talks about. So let's play that.
I tell you this, we want our hostages back, and they better be back before I assume office, or you will be paying a very big price.
But this was buried very deep in the speech,
Yeah.
right? So you
Yeah.
had to work to get there. Another moment that was just classic Trump. Well, for the first very classic Trump moment is when he's talking very seriously about this assassination attempt, and he tells you about the human ear,
The ear, right.
how it bleeds more than anything else.
Yeah.
It's like, so we learned something.
I know that, and then again, those are the Trump moments that actually work, and it is true for as any man knows, if you shave and you nick yourself, man, it just keeps on, just keeps on.
By the way, Gutfeld had a meeting with Trump yesterday,
Oh.
and from his telling, became a witness to the wound on the ear.
Really? He
Because
saw it.
Trump wanted him to see it, because he's like, I need a witness. And
Wow.
I do enjoy that, you need a witness, and Gutfeld is the guy you call in.
Yes. Wow.
So he said it was he said this on the show last night, so I don't think I'm betraying any confidences, but he saw it and he said it's pretty messy, right? So he does need the bandage.
Well, you don't want to get an infection.
Well, and it's fragile because if it bumps or if it hits something, then whatever.
Sure.
And I'm sure he doesn't want to mess up his hair. There's a lot of things going on here.
Right. And somebody stupidly also would questioned regarding the ear and that it was hit at all, because he said that the bandage isn't bloodied. Do they expect the president to go around with an old bandage from
Right.
Saturday?
Yeah,
Really?
they don't change that.
Yeah, no, they don't change it, I guess.
Anyway, so yeah, that I thought of a very successful convention. I joked on Gutfeld last night. It was so successful that, to my chagrin, I have had to praise both party leaders and politicians multiple times, and
Yeah.
I'm uncomfortable doing that. But
No.
look,
Yeah.
they did a really good job.
Yeah.
Um,
Especially this is a big deal for you, you know?
I know, yeah. But I gotta call them how I see them, and I think that what will come out of this convention is excitement, is unity, is the clips from the first part of that speech, not the rest of it. But I think you're right though, that blunted also the urgency on the left for just jettisoning
Yeah.
Biden,
I,
although they
yeah.
certainly
I'm
are
only half
trying.
joking. Yeah.
No, they certainly are trying, and we should do about 5 minutes, like
Yeah.
just a few minutes on
Definitely.
that. The pressure is ramping up. There's
It's
a
something.
coordinated effort to get him out of the race. Obama speaking out. It's just sort of like piling on.
Yeah.
But his White
Yeah.
House continues to release statements, and his people continue to release statements saying, like, we're not going anywhere. And then
Right.
there are reports that he's, and this rings true to me, that he's very angry at how people are treating him.
As he should be.
Because he was elected.
Yeah.
He's the elected president of the United States. And unlike the Russiagate nonsense people, I don't wish to unpresident him just because. Now, I do think he has problems and he should hand over the presidency to Kamala. I think we're in that place
Yeah.
at this point.
Sure.
But like the decision does have to be his, unless you want to 25th Amendment him. And
Right.
so they're pushing really hard. He has COVID. He's in Rehoboth. The crazy thing is, if he holds out on saying, okay, I'll leave, because everybody says the machine will get him. Like if the machine doesn't want him,
Yeah.
he's gonna have to leave.
Right.
I don't know. If he sticks it out till Monday and they realize he's still not budging, at some
Right.
point, don't they just have to be like, okay, I guess we're just going to a convention?
Right. I mean, and you know, there are Democrats who have now flip-flopped. It is putting them, Jerry Nadler, putting them in a bad position. Where do they go again? Do they now say, oh, wait, I changed my mind, a third time? Mark Halperin's sources, right? This has come out where he claims that Sunday Biden's going to make an announcement. And not only that, but according to his sources, that he's not going to endorse Harris and he's going to encourage an open convention. I think that's insane. I don't know if it's true, but I will say if that were to be true and that he did not endorse Harris, they work together. That's going to be a very awkward office environment. I'm just going to say I've been in awkward office environments, but not like this.
Also, like, what is Kamala doing if she doesn't get at least an endorsement out of this? If I were Kamala, I'd be like,
it's humiliating.
Yeah, no, you should have some leverage here, although I don't know if she's smart enough to use it, and say, like, I need the presidency as a springboard.
Yeah.
Because I'm in a compromised position. Then you start talking about this contested primary, this short primary they want to have, but not for voters, only for elites.
Right.
And an open convention, and it's just so much chaos.
Right. And there was word about Jeffrey Katzenberg, for example, eating with him.
He says he's cutting money, but do I believe that they're actually not going to donate?
Amazing.
Like they're gonna donate just to Senate and House. And I think in the end, that's maybe what they should have done post debate, is just decided, this guy's not great. Do we need to discuss whether he's fit to be president? But they're not really interested in having that discussion. They're only interested in having the is he fit to run for president discussion. And then they should have just concentrated on Senate and House. I think that's what they should have done. And
again, the emphasis, at least as it comes across to me, is not so much we're worried about your mental acuity or your general health. I mean, he had a great difficulty going up the small stairs, onto Air Force One, for goodness sakes, or even getting back in the president's limousine when he was back in Delaware. What you hear is Nancy Pelosi getting frustrated and saying, let me show you I got to show you the polling data.
Yeah.
Because you're down in the polls. We need to switch you out, which that's never happened before. I mean, I think about, and if I were Biden and I had the wherewithal, or certainly if I were Jill or Mike Donnellan or Hunter, you would say, hey, number one, you got the red wave wrong. Number two, and I think they've been saying this actually, which is, these are the same people telling me to step down that told me that Hillary's numbers were better in 2016.
Yeah.
and I'm still the only one who beat him. She didn't beat him, and you're going to tell me now that I need to get out again because my numbers are bad.
I mean,
And
that's their retort. Yeah.
again, I remember, because I was a political junkie by the time I was in high school, George H.W. Bush's numbers in the summer of 1988. And after the Democratic convention, Dukakis was up over George H.W. You didn't hear Republicans coming to, the vice president's like, oh, you better get out. You're down in the polls.
And they didn't do that because it shouldn't happen. Right.
Right.
Like it disregards, Biden is correct, the voters who voted for him. Now, the party didn't give them a real contested primary and should have, because he clearly has weaknesses and had them then. They were hoping to paper over them and to cover this up for the entirety of the campaign.
Yeah.
And they ended up not being able to do that. So now they're panicking and they want to switch this out. Here's the thing. Okay, let's say they did that successfully.
Yeah.
And you get new people on the ballot, and they don't even want Kamala. They want 2 new people.
Yes.
So you're asking 2 promising up-and-comers to put their name on a ballot for a 4-month campaign. It's actually shorter than that because early voting starts in like September some places.
Yeah.
That's a lot to ask because they might tarnish themselves during this process. Whatever baggage they have when they hit the big stage is coming out. Now the media is going to do its best to boost. Oh, fresh faces, amazing stuff. But here's my question.
Clean slate.
Say they do that and they do it smoothly somehow, whatever.
Right.
Why do their voters ever vote to choose a candidate ever again? Because if the party higher-ups can just throw over whoever you've chosen, there's no reason to do primaries.
I had the same exact thought, Mary Catherine, and it was, is this going to bug other Americans the way it's bugging me that, if you're just losing, you switch out and put somebody else in and sort of ignore that there is an actual process to which 14 million Democrats actually took part, even though they didn't have a great selection. But the fact is, there is a way to do this, and you just can't say, okay, well, we're going to put in Wes Moore, the governor of Maryland, because he's really popular right now. Maybe Mark Kelly, the senator from Arizona, former astronaut, and we're going to win. And what is Kamala Harris? Chopped liver,
Well, and Steve Schmidt, famously of the Romney campaign, now of the very, very, very anti-Trump wing of, I guess, I don't know, the Democratic Party
the Lincoln
now.
Project,
But Lincoln Project guy, he said the stupidest thing. He was like, oh, they're going to spend the entire convention talking about Biden, a guy who might not even be on the ballot. It's like, well, that's not a knock on this campaign. This campaign did its job. You guys didn't do your job. And once again, as Democrats often do enjoy, they're trying to change the rules midstream to make it easier for them to win. And I do think they're willing to make a lot of changes and do a lot of uncomfortable things to make that happen. But the first uncomfortable thing that has to happen is that the president has to agree to this to some extent. And he has yet to do that. And because we're recording now, he will probably do it today. But
people are saying that. I'm telling you, though, okay, so here's the problem, because I get the attraction, right? If you could just have a fresh start, a do-over, and you get Wes Moore or Mark Kelly or whoever else.
Gretchen Whitmer.
Whitmer. You get to the whole Biden-Harris tainted legacy, or all the weaknesses, I should say, of Biden-Harris. If you want to talk about inflationary policy, if you want to talk about Afghanistan, if you want to talk about the border, they're inoculated because they weren't there. That's not their administration. Oops, everything the Republicans have been going after is now moot. They just, throw it out the window. And you're going against people who have never done anything wrong in their life. That's why they're going to win in a landslide. That's a crazy thought, because you still have a vice president who is going to be there until January. I don't know how you square that circle, because she's there.
Either.
And again, as her supporters say, proceed at your own risk.
It sounds more ridiculous than the last hour of Trump's speech, but
it did. Yeah.
All right, I have to catch a flight.
You do. Okay. That's
we're gonna wrap it up.
Yes.
I think it was a successful week. Thank you for listening, and I'm glad we're able to do a bunch more episodes this week. Don't get used to it.
I was going to say
thank
you. I know many of our listeners, Hugh Hewitt et al., who would love to have this every day. I just want you to know this was really special. And what you could do is you just go back to the beginning of the week and then just re-listen to it. if you miss us. But we do. This was quite an experience. It was great having you there as well, Mary Catherine. This has been one heck of a week, and I'm sure the Democratic convention will be, very mundane, and we won't have much to say about that. Okay, so that wraps up this episode of Getting Hammered. Remember, you can subscribe to us on iTunes, Google Play, YouTube. You can follow me on Twitter at Victorino Mattis.
I'm at MK Hammer on Twitter, at MK Hammer Time on Instagram. We are at Getting Hammered Podcast on YouTube and Instagram if you want to watch us when we're in studio. Thanks for getting hammered responsibly. This has been a Nebulous Media Podcast.